Yep.
Let's go. Welcome to today's episode of Oh, You Want to Go There as we go into the deep of our stories as a catalyst for healing and transformation. I am Jasmine, holistic therapist, breath and sound healing guide, and founder of Verse Wellness, a digital storytelling platform that centers the stories and holistic well being of Black women and girls.
I am Melissa Wainwright, co host, transformational coach, and I am the creative engineer of all things created me. Yeah.
All right. So we're here again, another episode. Before we jump into it, how's your spirit today?
It's good.
Your spirit feels
Yeah.
good?
1 to 10, I'm 12.
Wow, that's really good. That's
Yeah.
really good. Even after all this deep, cathartic storytelling we've been doing over the last few episodes, feeling good, feeling great,
Feeling great.
amazing. I feel. What do I feel? I feel good as a baseline. I feel a little nervous, to be honest.
Nerves are good.
Yeah, nerves are good. And not nerves to be here and to share the space, but like, wow, like people are gonna really hear this. It's kind of giving Erica Badu. I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about I've been in my bag
Understood.
creating and planning and prepping. You think I'm a mad woman on the low.
It's not the low.
On the high,
It's definitely on the high. Like
I am a mad
I
woman.
arrived on
Listen,
Sunday and it has been
no,
nonstop
because I don't play. I
because
don't play by my craft.
she don't play about her
And
craft.
this is so just important to me as the first project. We'll talk more about this under the Versed Wellness brand. And so I'm just,
Excited
I'm on my
and
Beyonce. And
yeah.
Beyonce don't play, and I don't play either.
Well, let's go.
So let's get into it. All right. So if you haven't listened to the previous episode, I'm going to encourage you to do that. You can
Do it.
listen to any of these episodes as standalones, but they're little gems, they're little stories and nuggets that connect the full picture. And so please, if you haven't listened, I want you to go back before listening to this one. Of course, do what you want, but I just feel like it would just paint a fuller picture because in the last episode, we got into my first mother wound,
Yeah.
which was or is an abandonment wound. But
Yeah.
that was only part of the story. And so today we're going to go a little bit deeper, telling all our business
All our business.
in the spirit of healing. And yeah. And so with the abandonment wound, the basis of that story was that I lived with my father for a number of years. As a child, it was between both households, primarily with you. You had suffered a loss of the twins
Mm-hmm.
and needed a little bit of reprieve. And so you moved to Columbus, Ohio. And for a number of years, I stayed with my father.
Mm-hmm.
And the arrangement has been just visiting you primarily like on holiday breaks. So
Yep.
summertime, spring breaks. If folks were coming up for weekends, they
Right.
would bring me along with you. And if you were coming to Youngstown for just particular events, we would spend the weekend together, stay over like my aunt's house, things of that nature. So that was the
Mm-hmm.
arrangement for a number of years. And every single time it was time for us to depart, I would have this big, like, emotional breakdown. Never failed. Like, it was almost as if soon as the hours would begin to wind down, my spirit would just go into full on disruption mode. And I would have this huge cry outburst. And even when I would go back to my father's house, it took a few days to kind of reset the energy because, yeah, it was just really hard. It was just really hard being away from you as a young girl. And that's where my first wound came from, just that separation and just feeling like you abandoned me, even
Yeah.
though we know that's not the full story.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
Not the full story, but that is definitely
Mm-hmm.
your truth. And that's,
Mm-hmm.
what matters. It's your truth. And
Mm-hmm. And I get to hold it.
you get to hold it
Even
and I
though I'm
hold space
shifting
for
it.
it.
Yep, you hold space for it, even though I'm shifting it. And so today we want to go just a little bit deeper into that story and talk about like what happened next, right?
Yeah.
And so after yes, Lord, keep us as we dive into the depths today. And so again, I mentioned every time I would leave you, I would have this huge emotional outburst. Just very sad. just a very sad energy. I remember being a little girl once and just saying to you, like, I wish I had a knife and I could just cut myself in half and give half to you and give half to my father, and then everybody would just be happy. And so I feel like that was just really indicative of just like the internal like turmoil I was experiencing. I was young when I said that, probably not even in the first grade.
I think you may have been in the first grade,
Mm.
possibly, but it
Hmm.
was very early on when you said that. Like,
Yeah.
and for it to come out of nowhere, it's like, so this was something that you just internally struggled with
Yeah.
because no one ever told you it was a problem because we didn't function that way.
We didn't function that
You
way.
know, your dad and I didn't function that way.
Mhm.
We never, argued or fussed
No.
or,
There was no
there
drama.
was no anything
Mhm.
for you to ever feel that way. But
Mhm.
just internally, you
Mhm.
just knew that these two are not together
Yep.
and it would need two of me to be okay.
Yep. It would need 2 of me to be okay. So I remember telling you that, and I feel like you went to my father and said something like, "This is just not okay." But,
Yeah.
I mean, my dad, the thing about him is he stand on business, and so he was like, "Okay, like, you crying, and we gonna let you have your space to cry, and it's still a no." And so that kinda started, like, a series of, like, me visiting you and me coming back home and then just asking, like, "Dad, can I move with my mother?" And he would just be like, "No." For a number of years. "Dad, can I move with my mother?" No. He was just like it was just no. And we would have space to talk about it. It wasn't just like a firm, like, shutdown. They were very gentle with me. They held space for just the emotions, but it was always a no. And so this one particular time I came back from Columbus, I remember so vividly. I went to my father and I was just doing the usual, having to reacclimate, it being really hard. And I asked him, like, "Dad, can I move with my mother?" And he told me yes. And in that moment, I was like, "What?"
It was a shock.
I was a shock, I couldn't believe it, and then I began to ask myself, and I remember this too, just like as a child, like, "Do I really wanna do that?" I was just so used to being in the rhythm of asking and him telling me no, I almost just expected the no, but I just wasn't gonna let up. I was just gonna keep asking, but I never really sat with what it would be like for me to move and to live with you in Columbus, a new city, a new school, new friends, have a really strong family unit in Youngstown, Ohio. I have my sisters, I have my cousins. We did Sundays at my grandmother's house. We did church. Like we had a really strong routine. So I begin to like reflect, like, do I really want to go to Columbus? But I felt like I had to ride the wave. He said yes. He
You was
said
like, uh-oh.
I was like, dang, I gotta stand on that. Like I just did too much. And so we began to make preparations for me to move to Columbus. I used to come and visit you for the summer, but that particular summer, I remember staying in Youngstown because I would be transitioning full time to living with you. So I want to ask you, like, when my father called you and told you that he was giving me the okay to move, what was going through your head?
I was totally excited. And I mean, to be 100% transparent, I don't remember my full fledged
Mhm.
um, excitement because you always had a space at the house.
Mhm. I had a
You
bedroom.
had a bit, you always had your own space and you've
Mhm.
always had your own things there.
Toys,
So,
clothes.
yeah. So
Mhm.
I don't really remember like being, I was just like, finally, like,
Mm.
okay, finally.
Mhm.
Um, I'll get her for the latter half,
Yeah.
because that was about you were finishing sixth grade.
Mhm. I was
Yeah.
moving into 7th grade.
Right. So I was like, okay, great. So I immediately was like, okay, update her room, update
Mhm.
her wardrobe.
Mhm.
She's going to junior high.
Yes.
Like, I remember going to junior high and how exciting that was. And like,
Yeah.
okay, because you're the new kid on the block now.
I gotta be right, I gotta be fresh.
Right. You're the new kid.
Yes.
So yeah, I just remember, really being excited. Now, what I did miss was you in my summers because,
Mhm. We used to be rolling.
right. So it was like a longer period of time without
Mhm.
you, but it
Mhm.
was, like,
We was
it's cool
we
because,
yeah, we was
yeah.
making the move. And
Hmm.
so as the time began to lead up to me leaving, one thing about my dad, he would always say, like, you can always come back home. If it don't work, you let me know. I'll come back. I'll get you. Like he didn't play about me, you know? And we're gonna see that a little bit more in the way the story will transpire today. And so he dropped me off at the end of the summer. I remember that very well. And then I feel like we were just out. Like the first few weeks just felt so good. Like we were just having a time preparing for school again, shopping, just like really just immersing ourselves in the energy of finally being able to be together.
Yep.
It was really, really beautiful. And so I started the seventh grade. I went to a new school. It was a culture shock, predominantly like white people. I've never spent that much time around white people. Why am I whispering when I say white people? And so it was different coming from Youngstown City Schools
Right.
to going to Groveport Madison Middle
Yeah.
School North, I believe it was, or South. No, it's North. I don't remember. It doesn't even matter. But yeah, it was a completely different experience. And so we're rocking, we're rolling, we're having a good time until we hit our first snafu. And this is important because this sets the stage for just like I don't want to say the rest of our experience together, but a good portion of our experience living together. So, because we weren't necessarily living in the school district just yet. You were preparing to buy a home in the school
Mm-hmm.
district. What happened was, I believe I used my godmother's address.
Down the street. Yep.
Yeah, she lived down the street. And so when school was over, I would tend to go to her house. I had a key to her house, or my then stepfather, your ex husband, would pick me up from school. And so I never knew when he was going to pick me up from school. It was very random. It was, if you don't see me, just walk to your godmother's house. But if you see me, I'll hop in the car and we go back to the home. And so he gave me a directive. He said, when I'm coming, regardless of whether or not you know I'm coming, I need you to walk on the opposite side of the street where from where the school is. That way you can just hop in the passenger seat of the car. Fair enough. That made sense to me. I was like, okay, cool. Like that makes sense. This particular day, the way that the school did it, like they would release us in waves. And so it would be bus riders first, car riders second, and then those who were walking would go last. And I remember finally being dismissed. And this day, for whatever reason, I guess the buses were delayed. It was just so many buses. And so it made sense for me. And they were parked on the street and slowly moving down the street. So in my seventh grade mind, I'm like, safety first. It makes sense for me to just continue to walk on this side of the street just to avoid having to cross the street with all these buses. And as soon as the buses pass, I'll take the directive and I'll cross the street just in case he's coming to pick me up, which I did not see him on that particular day. I mean, it was really like a 5 minute walk. The walk from the school to my godmother's house was so short. It was a straight shot. And so I'm walking, 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 and I'm reaching the end of the street. At that time, the buses had just finished passing, and then I see him pulling up. And so, like, I'm like, oh, he's picking me up today. So he does a U turn to meet me on the opposite side of the street. Because remember, I didn't cross because of the buses. And I get in the car, joyful Jasmine, ready to share about my day. Hi, how are you? How was your day? Just doing my normal joyful Jasmine routine. And I met a side of him I had never experienced before. It was a complete shock. So I feel like I need to even pause because for whatever reason, this still like,
And earth you.
yeah, it still bothers me to this day. And so he looked at me. He was like, "Now that's your mother problem is you don't mother listen." Mind you, my daddy do not speak to me like that. So I've never heard an adult talk to me like that. I said, "Huh?" And he just starts to go the F off. I mean, every insult, every slur, every I'm gonna put my foot up, yo, and you gonna learn to respect me. And it was a lot of energy. And so I remember just like holding the car door, like, I have to get out of here. This does not feel safe. I've always had like a strong radar for safety. Safety has always been a priority for me. And
Always.
he was like, I know you better close that mother door. And I'm just like, oh no, I'm trapped. And so we ride to the house screaming and yelling at me the entire time. And all I could do was cry. Again, I'm in the seventh grade. I'm like a month or two
In.
in, a very new experience for me. So my instinct was my daddy told me if this do not work out to call him, he would come and get me. I said, say less. You won't let me jump out the car. I'm calling my daddy. So we got in the house and I ran straight for the phone. This is before I had a cell phone. We was heavy on the landlines back
Yeah.
in the day. And so I pick up the phone to call my father. And he said, "What you think you doing with that god bleep bleep phone?" I'm like, "I'm calling my daddy." And he was like, he ain't like that. Going off even more, "Put the phone down." So he took the phone from me, sent me to my room, and now I'm just bawling. And at this point, I'm like, dang, this is some bullshit.
Right.
I'm like, what? Like, what is this? I've never experienced anything like this. I've never experienced even being talked to in that manner. So then I hear him on the phone with you, and he is going nuts, going berserk, saying some of the most egregious things that you would ever say about a seventh grader, a 12-year-old at the time. Some things that I probably wouldn't even repeat because it was just like, why would you say that about me? But one thing he said that I will repeat, and I'm like hesitant to even repeat this. He told you, when a hard dick nigga get her pregnant, then you gonna know something, something, something. I'm just like, I wasn't even thinking about sex in the
Right.
in the seventh grade. And I just now can't help but to think about that being a projection off of your
Yep.
experience of getting pregnant really early. But I remember that phrase stung so deeply, just became a pattern, just to make that clear. But he left. He left. I guess he went to go cool down because he was just hot. He had to cool down. So when he left, I'm like, okay, cool. Like now I can use the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and I called my older sister back home because she a writer too and she don't play. And so she's always been like my protector.
Shout out to Brittany.
Shout out to Brittany. Brittany don't play. She protects all of us really, really well. So I called my older sister and I kind of am, amped up. And she calls, I believe, my aunt. Because I called my dad, he was at work. He worked like late shifts, so he wasn't able to answer the phone. And he worked in a factory, and so he didn't have a job where he could just answer on a whim. She called my aunt, my father's sister, my aunt Erica. My aunt called my bonus mom, who was also at work, and then my bonus mom was able to finally contact my dad. So at this point, all the family got involved, and all they knew.
It was a call tree.
Listen, because it was like, oh, what? Like, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't remember actually being able to speak to my father because he worked third shift. But I remember the story was passing around like that me and my then stepfather had a huge falling out. And I just was really overwhelmed like by the experience. So I go to sleep that night, wake up the next day, mommy drops me off at school. Everything is not fine, but we just proceeding with the day. Um, you pick me up from school that day. He don't pick me up from school that day, which I think was a good call. And so we're riding, and then you very calmly said to me, "You called your father?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, girl, what you expect? That nigga crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I called my father. And you said to me, "Okay, well, Jasmine, I just want to say that, you can't turn two households against each other." And I was like, what? And I didn't understand like how that was turning two households against each other. It felt like this feels unsafe. This feels unwarranted all over these stupid buses. And yeah, my daddy said call him. And then I don't really know what the conversation was between you and my father. Do you remember the conversation between you and my father?
I do. Partially.
Mhm.
Again, this was
So many years ago.
so many years ago. But
Mhm.
yeah, I do. He did call
Mhm.
and was like, what the heck is going on?
Mhm.
Jasmine then called. What happened?
Mhm.
And obviously, I reiterated the story and, he was like, well, if this is not a safe da da da, we
Mm.
need to,
Figure out the
figure
arrange
out the arrangements,
Mhm.
all the things.
All the things.
All the things, and obviously he's your dad. Again, me and him, we never had beef. So
Yeah.
this is new to you, but not new to me.
I think that's really
Um,
important to highlight because that was my
yeah.
next question for you.
So not new to me. And I was like, yeah, I got it. I got it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Trust me, I got it. And he was like, I mean, if I need to shake a move, let me know.
Hmm.
Because again, that's
Y
his daughter.
yeah. So when I finally had a chance to speak to him and he was very calm, he was just asking me like, "How are you?" doing a little bit of an assessment. And he said something to me that I will never forget. He's asked me had I seen this one movie, which I don't know the name of. And I responded, no, I haven't. He said, well, let me just paint the picture for you. He said, in this movie, I don't know what happened, but it was this guy who ended up killing another person, sat down, fixed him an elaborate last meal, and called the police on himself. And like, nah, you can come and get me because I just did that. He said, don't play. Don't play. Cause that'd be me. And so I was like, oh no. This is getting scary. But yeah, I was like, whoa, that feels really deep and also really beautiful to be protected in that kind of way.
Yeah.
And also, it kind of cemented this other new level of thinking to the point that you made around not turning two households together. And then to that story, I was like, I have to be really careful about what I say and what I share because I don't want to create a situation that feels hostile. Again, I've always been a bit of a peacemaker and balancing the energy.
But you didn't create that hostile environment.
No,
it wasn't you.
I know,
Yeah.
I know, but I still felt like I had to manage it, and so again, this was a pattern, and I just feel like he would always check in and ask me how are things, and I'm like everything is fine, even though it was like all going up in flames, right? And so my first question for you was like, did you know what I was getting myself into prior to moving? And if you knew, like, why did you not
when
stop
it came
me?
to you? Because he was always a jazz fan.
Mm-hmm.
She's a good girl. She's so sweet. So no, it was never.
I really liked him.
Yeah,
prior to
it was
moving.
never any
Yeah.
indication because if it was, I would have never had you come while we was together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would have just dipped and like really.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have never
brought me into that situation
at all.
Yeah. No, I was a huge fan of him prior to moving.
Oh yeah, you were.
I remember in the first grade, it was Valentine's Day, and we were making hearts, and I made one to insert his name from Jasmine. People were like, Jasmine, who is so and so? But I was just like, it's
none of your business.
Yeah, but it was like he was your person, and I really always felt he was fun and joyful,
and because he was, but then he became jealous.
You feel like he was jealous of me?
I do. I feel like he was jealous of the relationship. Now, he did try to paint it as a different picture of concern to different people. Oh, I'm just concerned. Like, she's a young girl. I'm just protective of her. I don't want, her to go down a bad road. I don't want her to be influenced negatively. And I'm like, that's not even her person. That's not even, I knew that's not who you were.
Yeah.
But, he tried to convince himself that was what it was. But most of it was just him being him and being jealous.
It's funny because while living within that dynamic, I never thought about it from the lens of jealousy.
I know. You were a child.
Yeah. It just was
you
like.
You was just like, what is this?
It was like you always got a grievance with me. And it's like, there's nothing that I can do right without you finding something to pick on me about. And not just pick on me, but like degrade me. It was really a really degrading experience. And so, I feel like in time, I learned how to anticipate the outburst. So it became like a walking on eggshells dynamic in our household. It's like, oh, he's having a good day. Whew, everybody take a deep breath. We can breathe. All is well. Oh, he's having a bad day. Everybody go and hide and just try to steer clear of his rage.
The
unnecessary rage.
Yeah.
And so,
and there was never, any physical abuse in this home.
Oh, he wouldn't try it.
He would never ever try it.
He would threaten it though.
He would.
He would say, "I'm gonna put my foot up." That's his favorite thing to say.
Yeah, because he was very wordy without actions. Yeah. But he definitely
talked a lot, never backed it up.
But he definitely knew I was about it. Because I was from the same hometown.
But wait a minute though. Can we talk about being about it for a moment? Because what I don't want to act like is I was a little punk. Because one thing about me, baby, I bucked back.
Definitely did.
For a lot of years, I bucked back. It's like, oh, you want to get bucked with me? I'm like, well, we could go there. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, we knucking and bucking and ready to like. Yeah. I remember this one particular time he was having a rage fit, and it just depended upon like who he could project it onto, and it was my cousin. And so he did put his hands on her. Now that I do remember. Like he didn't hit her, but he grabbed her up and hemmed her up against a wall. And then something clicked in me. I said, "Get your hands off my cousin." And so then I like pushed him, and then he looked at me like, "Oh no, you didn't." And me and her both was like, "Oh nah, nigga, we about you up today." And you know,
So remember it.
and you know that cousin, you know how she
I-
give it up.
huh?
She a fighter for
Mhm.
real, for real.
No, for real.
Like
Turn
all
over tables, like Jesus.
She always
Yeah.
was like, and that was my rider
She was
growing up.
ready.
Yes.
Yeah, she stayed ready.
She stayed ready. And I said, and
Absolutely.
say less because I got you.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to get this one off.
Yeah.
And so it just felt like the most perfect time. But then, you know, so it's like I wasn't a punk. I tried, but like I just didn't have, like, the power dynamic was imbalanced. I didn't have the will to exert, you know, like
That energy.
yeah, over his. Like it was
Mhm.
very dominating. And so I feel like as we continue to journey together, there were a few more incidences. And then one time I was honest with my father, and I remember I was home. I don't know if it was for a spring break or a summer, and you were coming to pick me up, and he was like, "We got to have a conversation." And so we were in the car, and then he was asking like, "Jasmine, like, do you want to come home?" And I really, really, really wanted to say yes, but again, me being the person, the people pleaser that I just was, I was afraid to just speak up and just be really honest. And then he just kind of told me like, "Well, I'm gonna send you back, but think about it. And if I need to come and we need to figure out how to shift the living arrangement, you let me know." And so I can tell that you were thinking that you were seeing that I was thinking about it. I just hadn't made a decision yet. And you said something to me that I'll never forget. You said, "I feel like we're just starting to get to know each other." And I never thought about it from that perspective. And so that really pulled at my heartstrings. I was like, wow, like I know you, but to know you on that level,
It was
we
different.
didn't. Yeah, at that 6 years had passed. And so
Yeah.
I had evolved into a new person. Like I was no longer 4-year-old Jasmine getting ready to go to kindergarten. I was 12-year-old Jasmine going to junior high school. And
Mhm.
so I was like, wow, you're so right. I don't know you. And I was like, and I really want to know my mother. Like, I really want that experience. And so I made the decision to stay and to thug it out, even though I was incredibly uncomfortable during like the entire, until I went to college, to be frank. Like this continued on the entire duration of me living there. And me going to college was like the first bit of reprieve that I had outside
Mhm.
of visiting my dad and my family back home in Youngstown. And so that was a lot.
It was.
I think what I didn't realize in the time, though, that you were defending me behind closed doors.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why he stayed in the basement
Mm.
for the majority of the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And
Yep.
so that created like a mistrust between you and
You and I.
I.
Yeah. And I could see how. I could see why. I
Mhm.
could see why it would,
Mhm.
because you didn't know, and I wasn't trying to get you caught up in the middle
Mhm.
of an adult, battle.
Mhm.
But I was always trying to get my exit plan together.
Mm. Mhm.
So, yeah.
I remember it was just one final time, and we're not gonna deep dive into all the scenarios because there were just so many. But it was just one particular day. I think now I'm 16. I'm 16 or I'm 15. I'm 15 getting ready to turn 16 because I remember I was learning how to drive at that time. And I
Yeah.
learned how to drive at 15. Against my own will, I did not want to drive. I've always wanted to be a passenger princess.
Always.
That has all. I think that is
I
my
made you
calling.
learn to drive,
Yes, that
and you
has.
hated every bit of it.
Listen, that was my calling in life, and it's still my calling in life. It's to be a passenger princess, but you made me learn how to drive. And so I had this one friend, we spoke every morning to figure out what we were going to wear to school because school was like a fashion show. We were like, "What you wearing to school?"
Girl.
Girl, I used to be, and you were at work, and the way my school ran, it was overcrowded, so we had multiple sessions.
And
And
that's why you had to drive.
right, we had multiple sessions. So I was in third session, so I didn't start school until like noon. And so I would be at home by myself in the morning, just had all the spaciousness to get ready, to talk on the phone with my friends, to prepare for the day. So me and my friend was on the phone, we were chatting. I'm like, "Girl, what you wearing? What I'm wearing?" Whatever the case may be. And then I leave to go catch the bus. And then I'm on the bus And as soon as I get on the bus, I realized I missed a phone call, but I had a voicemail and it was him. And so on this voicemail, again, you think you mother slick, you have some niggas in my house. These niggas calling my house. And I'm like, what is he talking about? B word, just like completely. And it was just like, again, so I remember I go to school and I'm bawling and my teacher's looking at me like, what is happening? And I'm just like uncontrollably sobbing. And then I'm like, what is he talking about? Who called the house? Now I was smart. I ain't never had no boys call the house, even though back home I was allowed to have boyfriends. But in this situation, it was just like boys were just really off the table. I had a cell phone. So
Right.
why would I have these men call this house when I had a cell
Had a
phone?
razor. I remember.
I had a razor. Well, the first one was a Samsung Flip.
Oh, okay.
And then I upgraded to the chocolate razor. It was pink. Real cute. And so I went to my friend. I was like, "Did you call the house?" She was like, "Yeah." I said, "Can you please call back and like tell my stepdad that it was you?" So she called and was like, "Hi, Mr. So and so. Sorry, I hung up," because she hung up the phone because she's like, "I got confused. I heard a male voice, and usually it's just you home by yourself." She said, "I thought I had the wrong number," and then he felt so stupid. So that day he came to pick me up from the bus stop. And he was just being so nice and was like, "Let's keep this one just between me and you. And I'm gonna take you how to learn how to drive. And I feel like you need some new shoes, don't you?" Like all those things that you do after, like it's typical abusive behavior.
Absolutely.
And so I kept it. I held it.
Yeah, because I'm like, I didn't know about that until we talked. Yeah, I didn't know
Well,
about that situation.
You didn't know about that until the next blowout, which was my 16th birthday.
Okay.
Over them trash
Freaking
cans.
trash
Over
can.
trash cans. And so he came in the house on a tangent or whatever it's called, because I didn't remove the trash cans from the street to back by the garage. But it was my birthday. And he was like, "You probably been on his phone all day." I'm like, "Yeah, it's my birthday. Like, I've been on the phone all day. It's my 16th birthday." And so that one was so bad. And then that one, I remember bucking back and being like, "You ain't my dad." It was like a whole back and forth. It was a big to-do. And so that was the time I was like, you know what? Like, you told me to hold it. I never deleted that voicemail. I kept it as collateral just in case.
I loved it.
And then I let you listen to that voicemail, and the look on your face, you were done. You was like, no. And so I think that was the first time I realized that, oh no, you got me. Like, you've been riding for me behind my back, but I could clearly see the just like the
disdain,
the anger, the just like the disgust from the way that like he has spoken to me. And so one of the things that came up for me, and is still continuing to come up for me, like we talk about this often because I've been processing this experience. It's taken a lot for me to process it, to be frank. And sometimes we don't realize like just the impact that certain living situations, environment, our early childhood experiences have on us, and the ways in which those things will interweave itself into just different aspects of our life. And so one of the things that I really begin to realize as I, come of age is this pattern of feeling like my voice, like a stifling of my voice, feeling like I don't have space or the courage to speak up and say the things that's really on my heart because there is no space for people to receive it or to hear me out. Because whenever we would have fights, they would be completely illogical. And I would have an explanation like, well, yeah, like the trash people literally just came. It's my birthday. And after I was done talking on the phone, and then also but like he wasn't really down to.
But you wanted to be logical with an illogical person, but you didn't understand that at that time.
Yeah.
I did, but you didn't.
Yeah. But for years, I feel like I've really struggled with my voice in relationships, in my career, even in friendships. Like I'm the person who peep the most subtlest of energy, and I just like peep and I let it rock. Like I don't spend too much time. Like it's like turn the other cheek. It's not my business, And I feel like that has gotten me into some trouble. Not is not the word I want to use, but just like conflict. Like you don't peep, and then why don't you say nothing? It's just like you don't understand. Like this pattern of just like my voice,
that pattern of behavior, had become a part of your makeup, but you didn't ask for that. And you didn't want that. It just happened to be forced on you because of the stupid situation, and which was actually the same for me. It was the very same in my life. Like I felt like my voice was stifled until it wasn't, until I had to for real buck, because I am generally the peacemaker. I am generally, let's look at it from a other, perspective.
Yeah.
I'm generally like, okay, let's all come to the table and figure it out. But these last few times, I was like, no.
There was no figuring it out.
No.
No. Say it with your chest.
I said, no. You know what? This ain't what we about to do. So from truly that point on, like, life shifted for him and I, because
yeah, it did.
I was done.
Oh no, you were in that marriage, but you were not in that marriage.
Yeah, I was at that point.
Very separate lives.
We lived intentionally
separate lives.
My exit became, okay, God, show me how to get done. Show me how to be done. Show me how to release and not cause any more harm. And from that moment, I became very intentional. So yeah, we stayed out of that house as much as possible.
Yes, we did.
Unless
he was gone. And he would leave often, and we would love it.
Often, because we basically lived a married, separate life. And he did whatever he wanted to do, and I was very fine with it. Did not have a care, because my care was you and Brooke. Now Brooke didn't really suffer this much in her early years, because she was a kid, and she was like, oh, I'm outside to play, or she didn't have that real responsibility then. I mean, she got it some.
Oh, no. We're not going to tell her story.
Exactly.
Maybe we'll invite her at a point in time if she chooses to.
Yeah, she got it some. But for the most part, it was just myself and you. But again, you didn't see a lot of mines, because they were hidden or not in front of your faces, because I didn't believe in that. I didn't believe in that. So the exit plan was very much strategic. And we did live very separate lives intentionally. And it was just like, okay, as soon as I can,
I'm out of here. I think what that did for me too, like, in addition to like feeling like I've developed this pattern of just swallowing my words and crying whenever there's like a big conflict, I'm just in tears, and then my throat get really, really dry. And even though there's so much that I want to say, I just can't really formulate the words to say it. The other thing that came up for me is like I became hyper aware of just like men who feel unsafe to my nervous system. And I've kind of made my own internal decision. Like, I would never, like, if it feels even like a little like red flaggy, I'm like, that don't work for me.
Exactly.
Safety is my love language. Like, I need to feel safe in my connections. And I think a lot of it is because of this.
And in a relationship, that's one of the pieces that's important. Protection and safety. I mean, safety, protection, they go hand in hand. That safety is, I need to feel not safe just from the world,
but safe in my home.
Exactly. And unfortunately, I mean, they were just not stable in that way. And, they were battling their own self-identity and crisis matters. And at that point, I just had to, I chose us. And I was like, I can't help.
I remember when you told me like, we're getting divorced. I'm like, thank you, God. It's about damn time. In a minute, I'm gonna need it. In a minute,
and it took no time at that point when I was released.
Yes,
baby. I said what I said.
You did. You stood on business.
I said, "Oh, that's what you want to do." Got it.
Yeah, we was out. We was out.
And within 2 weeks, we had a new space.
The house was packed up.
I remember immediately.
Yeah.
You and I.
Yep.
Saturday.
Yep.
Looking at apartments.
Yep. I said, "Oh, girl, I got you. Say less."
Found an apartment instantly. Signed the lease.
I was in college. I was looking for another apartment. I said, I'm not even going to find an apartment. I'm just going to stay home with you, and I'm going to help you.
I said, got it.
Yep.
Signed off on that lease. Start packing. Baby, this is a point where he was gone to Youngstown for a while because he had lost his job. And we packed. We packed and moved.
Like, surprise, surprise, surprise.
We packed and moved.
Surprise, surprise.
And he came home on that last round.
Girl, I love a good
I came home on that last round, but we was out and he was just so shocked, which
it's
I
surprising.
didn't
It's like, why are you
understand.
shocked? You are holy hell.
And their response was, "Oh, I thought we were just gonna be separated in the house." I said, "We've been separated in the house for 2 years.
Plus, I mean,
Like, we've been separated in the house.
man,
Like,
yes,
literally, we've been separated in the house."
yes.
So I was just like, "Why'd you think that?" I told you
Mhm.
when you finally said, "This ain't working."
You said beautiful.
I said, "Bet."
beautiful.
And I told you I was gonna leave.
Mhm. Mhm.
He didn't really think I was gonna leave.
Yeah,
After all this, he didn't think I would do it.
but you did it.
Trigger finger was ready.
It was ready. You did that thing, and I think I was really just truly so proud of you and so happy that you made that decision. But it's still not lost on me. We
Correct.
spent a lot of years
Correct.
living in that dynamic, and it was a lot. And so when I was like processing this particular episode and just thinking about like, okay, cool, we're noticing generational patterns. We're noticing, we're diving deep into our trauma experiences, and we're looking at the ways in which our trauma impacts us as we move into adulthood. Because we know, like, the thing that's, if you don't address it, it just shape shifts into a different form, and it'll continue
It shows up differently.
to show up.
Mhm.
And so this pattern is stifling my voice. But one of the things that came to me when I was prepping for this episode was like just really realizing the power of your voice. Like, we say words are powerful, but I don't think we all often realize like how powerful our voice is. It's spiritual. It is magical. It is the vehicle in which we create. It is the vehicle in which we take the unmanifest that lives in the spiritual realm and make it tangible, right? Like, there's so many scriptures and just like spiritual wisdoms that speak to the power of just your words and how you can use your words to create reality.
Absolutely.
Right? Life and death and the power of the tongue.
And the power of the tongue.
Yes.
As I'm sitting here while you're talking, I remember that episode, that last trash can episode so vividly, and then you giving me the phone call and how distraught I was. Like, I was so, like, first of all, you messed up my baby's sweet 16 birthday.
Yeah.
For one. I said, and second of all, you done me all the way off.
Yeah, you were
like,
done.
Yeah. And this is a funny part because I remember being so angry. This is when Sharon and them lived not too far from us around the corner. And I remember going to her house and just being so angry because I needed to vent,
I remember
and
that
not
too.
in front of y'all.
I feel like I spent my birthday there.
Where?
At her house. Like, I feel like I think you went to vent, but I was there too.
Yeah. Y'all was with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember my dad calling me and speaking to him while he was at the house.
I remember sitting on her front steps, and she just kept looking at me like up and down. And I said, "Why is you looking at me like that?" And she said, "Oh, honey, I know it's bad." She said, "You got on a sweater in June, jogging pants, mismatched socks." She said, "This whole person that's standing in front of me,"
because the way you used to give it
up. "This person that's standing in front of me,"
we don't know who this is.
She said, "I don't even know who this is." Yes. She was like, "This is totally not a person that I even recognize." She said, "Oh, I know you hit your final." She said, "Because this person," and that kind of broke the tension. But I realized, I was like, I am not even who I am. And like, I literally have caused harm and stifling his voice way before now.
Stifling his voice or my voice?
Stifling, shutting him up. To shut him down. Put him out. Or just leaving.
What do you think? Why did it take you so long to leave?
Because literally I was trying not to be a divorcee again. That was my whole, not again, but a divorce, because my parents were divorced. So when I went in, I was like, I'm going in. I'm not, it's once. That's it.
One and done.
Yeah. So I'm trying to honor my vow. I'm trying to, honor my covenant. But he's definitely not. Like, You're definitely not.
I'm gonna like lean into the vow, right? Because I'm again, when you say vow, I'm thinking about words and power of
Again.
words and how there's an agreement in our words and how we don't oftentimes think about like the power in our words. And so
Mhm.
in thinking about that, as I've been working to just like reclaim my voice and to take up space and to say the things, even if it makes me uncomfortable, not necessarily having to anticipate how people will receive what I have to say, but just
Because
being
that's not your
because it's
business.
really not my business,
Mhm.
but being able to own whatever I am being urged to say. And so I was thinking about just like how this like concept of just like generational curses
Mhm.
and and before we even get to generational curses, I kind of went down a spiral about words. Like, well, why are words so powerful? Like, why are they so like they carry a vibrational like resonance, right? And then when they resonate with a certain thing, I feel like it just helps it to materialize and to become
Because words framed us. In the beginning was the word, and the
yes,
word was God.
yes.
That period. Like, because words framed
It was
us.
all a word.
Because it was spoken into existence. So
It was
words do
spoken.
carry so much weight because it definitely
Mhm.
tells us in the beginning was the word,
Mhm.
and the word was God. The word was with God, as
Yes.
the same as in the beginning.
Yes.
Not anything that was framed or made
Was
was
without a word.
made
Without a word.
without that word.
You better preach.
So it
Mhm.
existed, and that's why it's so powerful.
That's why it's so powerful. And so thinking about this concept of just like generational like curses, right? Like sometimes we say like, oh, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out like what does that even mean? Because what is a generational curse,
Hmm.
right? Is a generational curse just unhealed trauma that we continue to perpetuate because we are not doing the work or addressing it or calling it out or
Hmm.
bringing attention to it or
Hmm.
shifting the pattern,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But a curse is just an arrangement of words.
A curse is an arrangement of words that backed up by actions.
Well, okay, so I have the definition of a curse, and I
Okay.
do want to read it because I really needed to like figure this out. So, a curse is a solemn utterance intended to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment on someone or something.
Hmm.
All right, a solemn utterance. Okay, a word, a
Hmm.
solemn utterance. And so then I would start thinking about like, okay, well, what are generational blessings? Because in episode 2, I mentioned that my teacher
Hmm.
had brought to the forefront this idea of generational
That's
blessing.
right.
And I was like, I really like how that feels. And I don't know what that means, but I'm going to rock with
But I
it.
like that.
I like it. And so a blessing is to consecrate, to sanctify by a religious rite. Both invoke supernatural power, right?
Hmm.
Make or pronounce a word, okay? Holy to request of God to uh bestowal of divine favor. And so say that once again, to consecrate or sanctify by a religious rite, make or pronounce holy to request of God to bestowal of divine favor. They're the same thing, two opposite sides of the same coin.
Hmm. Again,
Two
complete.
opposite ends of the spectrum.
Again,
Maybe.
energy,
Mhm.
and here's the big one:
Mhm.
the intent behind
It's
them.
it's the intent.
It is the
Yes.
intention
Yes.
behind them in which
Absolutely.
they were delivered
Yes.
and how they should be received,
Yes, because you have to receive it.
right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of times people have spoken things over us
Mhm.
and said things to us
Mhm.
with ill intention
Yes.
to harm us,
Yep.
different ways to break us down, to make us more
Yep.
subservient, to to just manipulate the situation, to get the upper hand for control,
Mhm.
whatever it may be.
Mhm.
It is always the intent
It's the intent.
of a thing, right?
Mhm.
Because back in the day, when there was a high priest,
Mhm.
the high priest's position was to hear the people
Mhm.
intentionally
Mhm.
and take what he heard from the people back to God.
Mm.
Tell God that God would then bestow and tell him what to take to the people
Mm.
and put on them blessings,
Mm.
help them in the way that was being petitioned.
Mm.
It was the intention.
It was the intention. Even hearing you say that, like what comes up for me is the ways in which we cast spells on ourselves every single day.
Tongue.
With our tongue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the ways in which we cast spells on other people with our judgments,
Yep.
with the projection of our fears onto them, with
and that was a big one. It was simply
it was a projection.
Yep. Of preconceived fears.
Yep.
That was bottled up in
Yep.
your anxiety
Yep.
and your other mischief combined.
Mm-hmm. And put on me
and put
and
on you
and just whomever was caught in the crossfire.
Yep.
Yeah, it was simply a projection. And it also has me thinking just about like how mindful like I want to be in this season of my life with my words, with the words that I speak over my life, with the way that I use my voice, with the way that I center my voice, the way that I create space for other people to center their voice. And like at the end of the day, I'm like, maybe we need new words.
No, we need to learn to get up. It's so funny because Pastor was just talking about this. We need to learn to speak in blessing language.
Yeah.
And that just not, that does not mean people always equate a blessing with a finance, but that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
But that just means to speak well of, right? To get up and speak well of. You can speak well of anybody. You see the homeless person, speak well. You see the mother and the children struggling, speak well. They don't have to know that you're speaking well because our words carry energy.
Yes.
And energy don't die.
It don't die. It don't die.
So if we are in a habit of constantly speaking well and bestowing blessings and showing from a posture, a good heart posture.
You better talk about a good heart posture.
Not in a way that we're looking just to receive something because we're giving something, but from a pure good heart posture.
Yep.
Period, point blank. We can do that. It'll cost us nothing.
It costs us
but
nothing.
It also will begin to change your mindset.
It will. It will.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. A good heart posture.
Good heart posture.
Yeah. I love that. I love that
He
so
who
much.
has clean hands and a pure heart.
So my commission for the peoples, for those who are listening or watching or however you are tuning in, is just aligned words rooted in love, words rooted in our collective liberation, words that align with who you know yourself to be, not what someone may have spoken onto you and you've received it and you allowed those words to settle and find refuge in your body and they begin to grow and now you are now a walking embodiment of those misaligned words.
Been there for so many years. So many years. Give
Give yourself just permission to release
not
it. Yes.
Living in who I am or who I know I was supposed to be or who God called me to be, but living in the fears and the words of other things that people have bestowed on me. And I embodied those babies like, okay, this is my personality. Okay, this is my plight. Okay, this is my life. No, you have the power to get up and change it at any given time. No matter how old you are.
Transformation energy is always available to you. I say that often. Anytime I lead a breathwork session, I'm like, reminder, my love, you are regenerative. You are regenerative. You can transform at any time. At any time. And I think this is why, for those who don't know, again, I always start off this the podcast saying founder of Versed Wellness. And that is the inspiration behind naming my company Versed Wellness, because I've been sitting with the power of words. And I truly believe that it is my divine assignment to create space for healing in connection to words. Heavy on the throat chakra energy. I'm talking the way that I guide through my breathwork sessions, the way that I guide through sound healing, creating space for storytelling because our stories matter, being really intentional with the words that I'm speaking over the people that I have been assigned to and myself. Because
you got to take care of you before you can take care of the people. And that's one of the things that we've gotten backwards for so long is take care of others and then, you do what's left over for you. That'll never pan out. You'll always be in the form of exhaustion.
No, for sure.
You'll always be in a form of need. And you're giving from an empty cup. How much are you giving?
Little of nothing. And so even in my practice with Versed Wellness, I take really good care of me.
You do.
I take such good care of me, and I'm able to show up and create space for community create space for new aligned narratives to land, give voice to. This is why I'm so passionate about the work for young girls and also women, because now I'm a grown woman. but for young girls,
Mhm.
especially those who are also living in um really just
Some type of fear.
harmful, like living situations, and maybe there have been words that have been placed on their lives, and they don't have access to the tools and the resources, or someone to combat that and say like, no, that is not what it is. You get to self-define. You get to create a self-defined vision for yourself, for your life, for your legacy. And so, yeah, so that's why verse wellness is what it is, because I truly believe in the power of words. And and it's also like a reclamation, like to myself. It's kind of like, okay, cool. You lived in that energy for so long.
Mhm.
You swallowed your words for so long. You were afraid to speak up for
Speak
so
up.
long, and people may have had an idea about who you are, this little docile little meek, and it's just like I can be that, but I can stand on business too,
Mhm.
and I'm shifting that narrative for myself. And so yeah, so reunited, and it doesn't feel so good. That was the journey, and that's the truth of it,
It's the truth. And
it's
you
it's the
know,
truth of it.
at the end of the day, we sit and we talk and, you're like, oh, they may be just kind of jokey, whatever. No, they're real and they're serious. And
Mhm.
we're not just joking. But I've learned to lean into the space and I've learned
Mhm.
to allow space and I've learned to understand I can't change somebody else's journey and
Mm.
feelings by trying to project minds or take away what they felt at that time with an excuse.
Mm. That is so crucial in healing work, and I am so grateful for you for that. And I have dreams still of that house. That house haunts me. I have dreams where he pops up, and I'm like, "What the hell are you doing here? Like, leave me alone." Like, I feel like
Yeah.
it's a thing for me. It was traumatizing,
Mhm.
and I am so grateful that no matter how much I need to process it, or how much um or how frustrating it is, or just like whatever idea I had about how you showed up and how you protected me and held space for me during that time. Like, I'm so grateful that you are a person who just let me have the space to share it from my vantage point.
Absolutely.
And you're not trying to change my mind and tell me, well, actually, it didn't happen that way.
Oh
Or
no.
y-
Because this is a big one. The way people remember things and the way people perceive things, it happened for them that way. And
mm,
although there may be a different side to the story because, everything that she's saying is rooted in truth and fact.
mm-hmm,
But there are also truth and fact on the other side that was kept from you. You know
mm-hmm,
what I mean?
mm-hmm,
As a mechanism of mine, right? Because you were a child and I wasn't trying to put that on you. You was
mm-hmm,
already, children
mm-hmm,
already dealing with enough. And now
mm-hmm.
you got to deal with crazy.
Do you
So
feel like it's the parents' responsibility though to like let children know that they are being defended and protected?
I think they should. Absolutely. Because, me at that time trying to be, docile and trying to be a mom and a protective and trying to be a peacemaker and trying to be a good wife and a good Christian and trying to be an
Mm.
amazing worker and trying to hold it
Mhm.
down and
Mhm.
trying to wear so many different hats, I just literally remember it's so funny because before I even came home that day, I literally remember leaving work, pulling over before I got home and crying so hard
Mm.
in the car.
Mhm.
And I literally said, God, if you don't change this thing right now or give me access to do something different, someone's going to die.
Mm.
I literally remember just having to just pull over and get myself together and
Mm.
just like for real cry out. I mean, this was like that ugly cry from deep. Somebody probably would drove by and like she having a seizure or something. Something ain't right. But
Mm.
this was that no God. This was that deep down like if you ain't ever showed up, I need you to show up today
Mm.
because that's where that was coming from.
Mm. I want to wrap this episode, but this brought up just one more thing for me. Because one thing that you said to me is that how you would sometimes read your journals and you felt like Man, that was too deep, and I over spiritualized things.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like there was a over spiritualization in you even being able
Absolutely.
to like walk away and just like you
Absolutely.
were waiting on God to give you permission, but really the permission
Absolutely.
lied within yourself the whole time?
Absolutely. Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. It was just
Mhm.
too much. It
Mhm.
was. It was
Mhm.
too much.
Mhm.
Yeah. It was just like, girl, you you are free.
You free.
You are free. Now, in saying that, God did give me some instruction, and he let me know that, all this ain't because of him. Some
Mhm.
of this is because you allowed it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's true. People will treat you the way you allow.
Yeah.
So you have to take ownership. And that's why I don't have problem taking ownership of my stuff.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
I do not
Mhm.
perfect in any way, shape, and form, but I learn from it.
Mhm. Mhm.
I apply
You
it
do apply really well.
and I sit in that thing
Mhm.
and I've done the work. I've had multiple therapists and counseling sessions and
Mhm.
some psychiatrists
Why you say it like that?
because they weren't just all, social worker therapists. Someone was psychiatry, huh? Because they come time I get a little deeper. Sometimes you
Girl,
gotta go deeper, huh?
girl, you
Listen.
something else.
Sometimes you
Jesus.
got to go deeper. So yeah, a lot of
Mhm.
it was. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
have our faith, but in our faith, you know, God is not like a black and white God. Like everything is not written. He
Mhm.
gives us common sense and he gives us free will.
Common sense and free will. Yes.
And we have to operate inside of that. And so
Mhm.
yeah, I go back and I've been like reading some of that stuff and I'm like, girl, oh,
Do a new thing, Lord. And if you don't, it's like
I mean, it was
no,
too
baby,
much.
you do a new thing. How
Yeah,
about that? Like,
it
how about you stand? How about you stand on business
stand on
and realize
business
you
and
have an
stop thinking that I'm
agency?
about to come down because I'm not.
Because I'm not.
That's not it.
And, on that note,
We're gonna be done.
I think we can wrap. And so, in the spirit of, oh, you want to go there, we always have some homework for you, which is a little bit of a reflection. And so, this week's reflection is we invite you to be reflective of the words you speak over yourself, the words you speak over the people you love, and the people you are in community with. Where can you add more grace?
Ooh.
Where can you add more love? Where can you add more kindness? Where can you be more gentle with yourself? Where can you realign the ways in which you speak over your mind, your body, your abilities, the things that you may not be so proud of?
That part.
Where? 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 Hold that. And with that note, we're going to wrap. As always, we appreciate you spending this time with us and listening to us as we deep dive into our story so that we can create the possibility for transformation and healing. As always, we ask that you like and subscribe and share,
Share.
rate and review. Please follow us on Instagram at Versed Wellness, simply Jasmine B for my personal Instagram, and
Creating me for my personal Instagram.
period. And we look forward to sharing this space with you again.
Drop us some gems.
Yes, and what you got from this episode. Like what resonated with you, if anything. Please drop it in the comments. We can't wait to read it.
Be kind to yourself. Speak great words.
Yes, amazing. Have a good day. Bye.